Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA players, legends, and the top instructors in the game share their insights and playing lessons. Join Chris every Tuesday night as he talks with the greats of the game. Tonight's show is sponsored by TaylorMade Golf, the PGA Tour Superstore, Golf Pride, 2 Under, Zexio, Sun Mountain Golf Bags, Finn Scooters, making the game more fun, Bionic Gloves, and the Macklemore Club. Experience life above the clouds. Now, here's your host, Chris Mascaro.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and I am so excited about tonight's show. I've been looking forward to it for a while because I've got 3 guests who are really going to knock your socks off. Leading off tonight and making her 7th appearance with me is 2010 LPGA National Teacher of the Year, Cindy Miller. Over the years with us, she's helped us a lot with the mental side of the game and helping us develop confidence and figuring out our purpose and why we play the game or anything else that we do. Be sure to check out Cindy's website, cindymillergolf.com. Tonight, for our friends in places where it's just starting to warm up, or for those of us just getting ready to start our golf season, we're going to talk about how to knock the rust off of our swings. And for those of us trying to break 80 or 90 for the first time this year, right, that's our goal. We got to break 80 or 90. This has got to be the year. We're going to find out how to get over that mental hump when Cindy joins me just a few minutes from now. Following her, I'm going to get a visit from Suzy Whaley. Suzy's truly an amazing person, folks. She was the first female to do several things in the game. Back in 2003, she became the first female to qualify to play in a PGA Tour event since 1945 when Babe Didrickson-Zaharias did it. She qualified to play in the Greater Hartford Open. She was also the first female president of the PGA of America. She's also a PGA Master Professional, and like Cindy, one of the top instructors in the game. I'm very excited to have Suzy as part of the show. A lot to get into tonight with her. She'll join me about 25 minutes from now. And then we'll round out tonight's show with a visit from one of Golf Digest's top 100 instructors, and one of the top instructors in the state of Georgia until just recently, and that's Brandon Stooksbury. Brandon just recently accepted a position as the head PGA professional at Metairie Country Club in Louisiana, so we'll talk about his new job. Plus, he's a short game guru, so we're going to get a lot of tips about better chip shots, plus getting out of the fairway bunker or a greenside bunker and how to hit it close when Brandon joins me about 45 minutes from now. So there you have it, folks. More great stories, tips, and information are coming your way tonight on this edition of Next on the Tee. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking the journey with me tonight. Before we get started, I want to remind you about our friends over at the Macklemore. My buddies and I heading up there for our annual golf trip in June, and I absolutely cannot wait to be there. The Macklemore is a beautiful community resort and golf course just 35 minutes outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee on Lookout Mountain. Folks, go online to themacklemore.com to check out what a wonderful golf course and other amenities they have available for you up there. Their new clubhouse and bar opened up last fall. Folks, you got to see this place to believe how great it is. The golf course is co-designed by our friends Bill Bergen and Reese Jones, and our friend and PGA Tour caddy Kip Henleyson outside of Pebble Beach. It's the most beautiful 18th hole he's ever seen. And Golf Digest agreed, oh, by the way, naming it the best finishing hole in America since 2000. See why they all say that by checking out the course and the resort online at themacklemore.com. And folks, this segment of the show is brought to you by TaylorMade and their TP5 and TP5X golf balls. High draw? Check. Low fade? Check. Bump and run? Out of the sand? Flop shot? Guess what? Check, check, and check. No matter what shot you need to pull off, there's one ball that's better for them all, and that's the all-new TP5 and TP5X from TaylorMade. With a newly redesigned dimple pattern that decreases drag and increases lift, it's the number one ball in golf no matter the shot. So whether you need to hit it high over the trees, under or even through them, hit TP5 or TP5X, the one ball designed to handle it all. Check them out online by going to TaylorMadeGolf.com for more information. Okay, now back in making her 7th appearance with me here on Next on the Tee is 2010 LPGA National Teacher of the Year and a wonderful person, Cindy Miller. Cindy is from Silver Creek, New York, which is about 45 miles southwest of Buffalo. She played her college golf as a walk-on, mind you, at the University of Miami, where she served as team captain and helped Miami win back-to-back national championships in 1977 and 78. She was an All-American her senior season. She won the New York State Amateur Championship in 1978 and qualified for the LPGA Tour in 79. She competed out on the LPGA Tour for a few years, played in 5 U.S. Opens. She's a Class A LPGA professional. Golf Digest has named her one of the top 50 women teachers in America. Back in 2011, she was inducted into the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. And on top of all of that, she's a fantastic speaker and one of the great people you get to meet in this life. And I'm very excited to have her back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Cindy, thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you, Cindy. How are you?
I'm doing great. The sun was out today in Buffalo.
Good for you. Catch us up.
And
what's been going on with you so far in 2021?
Oh, my goodness. Golf is open. So thank God for that. We teach in a golf dome when it's snowing in Buffalo. And today we were fortunate enough to be outside, but we have never, ever given this many golf lessons, ever. So it's so great because people are getting excited. And what we found is there's an awful lot of kids that last year during COVID, they couldn't play hockey or soccer or baseball, and golf was open. So they came and they tried it, and they actually like it. And we've probably got 30 new kids, students that really, really want to work at the game and maybe play college golf, which is great.
Wow, that is awesome. So talk about that. You know, with an influx of new students, what's that been like for you and Alan?
Well, we're crazy busy, but it's awesome. You know, we did do our boot camp. We normally do one in January, 2 in February, 1 in March, 1 in April. We did the one in January. We take people down to Orlando to Orange County National, and we do 2, 3, and 4 day schools. We did a 2-day school in January. Then we skipped February. We were waiting for the vaccine to kick in. And then we did March and April. So it's amazing. I mean, we're teaching from 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. So it's awesome.
Speaking of awesome, I love your website, cindymillergolf.com. And you've got a new video since I last checked it out. And you talk about 4 reasons why someone has come to your website and how you can help them. Talk about what those things are and how you can help visitors coming to your site.
Well, number 1 is I need to learn to play golf, or I want to learn to play golf. So there could be, I want to do this for fun. Doesn't matter how old you are. I just want to start playing. And a lot of new people, you know, again, picked up the game last year because it was the one thing they could do outside. The second reason is I need to learn to play golf and use it as a business tool. And it's really funny because I have a session I do, a speaking engagement that's called From the Back Nine to the Boardroom. And Arizona State asked me if I would create an online program for their MBA students. So I did. And this program that's online, it's $97. And it teaches you everything you need to know about playing the game except swinging the club. We've got other programs that we do that with, but it's so imperative that people that have never been around the sport become aware of what they need to do. You know, how do I make a tee time? What are all these clubs for? Where do I pull in if I'm playing in a corporate outing? Do I have to tip the guy? All these special things. So that's number 1 reason you would come to the website. You want to learn to play. Number 2, you would come because you want to be more consistent. And how many times, you know, that's the main request of every person that ever comes in for a lesson. I just need to be more consistent. I can hit good shots, but I can't do it on purpose when I want to. The third thing is you want to score better. You want to break a score. You want to break 100, you want to break 90, you want to break 80, you want to break 70. And so we want to really work on our game and get better. And the last reason is you're scared to death. You might be choking your guts out playing in the club championship or in a league, and you're worried about your shots. And I call it playing with clenched butt cheeks. And, you know, needless to say, playing on the tour and playing on the Legends Tour and being on 2 big breaks, you know, I know exactly what it feels like to try to swing a club with clenched butt cheeks when you're scared to death. So that's the last reason somebody comes to the website. They want to get over their fear and play with more confidence.
So, Cindy, I want to get into a lot of what you just said in just a second, but for those folks up in your neck of the woods or further north or our friends around the globe where it's cold and it's now just starting, like you said, starting to get a little warmer so we can actually get outside. For those of us that, you know, we don't want to start off ingraining bad habits. What are some things that we can do, sort of get back to fundamentals, if you will, to make sure we've got the right grip, the right posture, the right ball position, all of those things? How do we check that off to make sure we're going to start off on the right foot?
Well, number one, you need to know what a square face looks like. So the mission of golf is start the face square, pointing at a target, not your shoulders, but the club face square, and start the club face square, swing it back to the top of your backswing, and bring it back to square. If you do that, you'll hit the ball straight. And again, it's going to be hard to discuss that or make it make sense on the radio when we can't really see what, you know, a square face looks like. But let's pretend you have an iron and it's sitting down on the ground. At the end of the grooves on each side of the face, the toe and the heel, there's straight lines at the end of those grooves. Those 2 lines should extend out straight beyond the face to where you want the ball to go. So if you do that, the toe of the club will be up off the ground a little bit. And so many people think that the toe should sit flush to the ground, but when you put the toe down, you're really shutting the face. So number one, you got to make sure the face is square. Number 2, the committee of they is something that drives me nuts. When you're with people that have played who think they know what they're doing and they tell you, oh, you got to act like you're sitting on a bar stool, keep your head down, your arms straight, shift your weight, turn your shoulders, hit the ball, follow through. Well, nobody looks like they're sitting on a bar stool. You have to hang over what I call partially puking. So you're bowing over from the waist. Yeah, you got to hang over like you're partially puking. So you got to hang over from the waist, and the weight should be on the balls of your feet. Your arms are hanging relaxed. They're not tight. Your hands should be kind of under your chin. Distance from the ball, the top of your forward arm should be resting on the side of your chest. So don't reach out and lock your arms, because if you do that, you're going to swing it back with stiff arms, and then you're going to dig to China and hit all shots fast. So you need to really relax. I don't care if you grip it with split hand or interlock or overlap. It doesn't matter to me. As long as your back palm is going the same direction as the face. So if you're right-handed, your right hand can toss underhanded. It's pointing the same direction as the club face. If you're left-handed, it's your left hand doing that. And then, you know, how do you hit it? Well, I would start with a little tiny tee, and I would start with a 7-iron, and I would take half swing and just try to brush the tee or clip the tee and not lock the arms and dig the ground. So it's really important to let the club head swing. And if you do that, it's going to help you hit it clean. You're going to get a feel for the head swinging, because the club head swinging is going to give you club head speed, and you're going to hit it straight.
Cindy, you mentioned a moment ago one of the 4 reasons being we want to score better. For those of us, we're tired of shooting 81 and 82, or we're tired of shooting 91 or 92, and it's our goal. This is the year. We're going to break 80. We're going to break 90. We're going to break 100, whatever it is. How do we get to sort of over that mental hurdle that allows us to freely go after it and actually break whatever that number is?
Well, let's use 90 as an example. First thing you have to do is you have to sit back and go through some of your rounds that you've played. And hopefully you can remember the shots that you hit on the course. And if not, I keep track of my stats every time I play. I put an X on the card if I hit the fairway. I put an O if I hit the green. And then I put down how many putts I had. So that's really important. Numbers are important. And when you miss a fairway or a green, put L or R for left or right, and S and L for short or long. Very few people miss green long. Very few people. Because normally we don't take enough clubs to get to the hole. So I would logically look at your round and say, okay, why do I keep shooting 92? And if you back out of that and say, look, let's pretend you can't reach all the greens. If you can't reach the green, but you can be on the green, so hitting a green, for those who may not know what we're talking about, you're always allowed 2 putts. So par 3, you should be on in 1 and 2 putts, you make par. Par 4, you're allowed 2 putts, you get on the green 2, you 2 putts. Par 5, you're on the green 3 and 2 putts. So let's pretend you can't reach any of the greens. And you have to be on all par 4s and 3 and 2 putts, and all par 5s and 4 and 2 putts, and all par, I skip par 3 on and 2 putts. So you bogey every hole. So that you shoot 90. Well, now there's probably 1 or 2 holes on the course, probably a par 3, that you can reach. So your mission is to get that ball on the green and 2 putts for par. If you do that and you bogey every other hole, you just shot 89. So if you break it up that way, you kind of go, oh, well, that's not so hard. You're giving yourself permission to screw up, and you're not trying to be perfect. The other thing that's going to happen is if there's, let's say you play the same course all the time, and there's a hole or 2 that drives you crazy. Well, go out on that hole and say, how can I play this hole differently? So I'll give you an example. The senior LPGA Championship is at French Lick, and it's at the PGA course. And this golf course is one of the hardest golf courses in the world. So this is the clench butt cheek course. You're either on the green or you're dead. Okay? So there's 2 par 3, number 8 and number 16. And number 16 really owns me. 8 kind of owns me. But 16, I can feel the butt cheeks getting tight before we get to that hole. Right? Well, Alan, who I'm married to, who played on the PGA Tour for 15 years, and he's the second purest ball striker Dave Powell's ever tested, and he's Mr. Shy, quiet, chill, and I'm a competitive control freak. So he would be Ernie Els, and I would be Tiger Woods. So I'm like, shut up, I got to hit the ball on the green. Well, I have made 7 and 8 on number 16. Now, add to that 16 is the TV hole. So what's on 16? The TV camera. It's a tower. So now what's Cynthia saying to me? Haha, don't blow this. Everybody's going to see you, right? So what happens then? The butt cheeks get tighter. So Alan finally said to me, why don't you hit a 9-iron off the tee on 16? I go, what? He goes, yeah, hit a 9-iron and then chip the ball on the green and make bogey and go to the next hole. I go, are you kidding me? He said, no, that's better than 7 or 8. Good point. So for the listeners that have a hole that owns them, why don't you do that and make a bogey? So I finally went to that tee box during the practice round. I said, you know what? I'm going to get over you. You are not going to haunt me anymore. So I found maybe you tee off on a different side of the tee box, right? Instead of the right side of the tee box, maybe you tee off on the left side of the tee box. So you got a different view going at the green or in the fairway so that you don't hit it out of bounds. Maybe you hit a different club off the tee. So again, if you keep saying, well, there's a couple holes, stop. Don't make excuses. Find a different way to play the hole. And if you do that, then you can break the number you're looking for. Now, breaking 80 is a little more difficult. I can tell you that you're probably adding up the score, and your buddies are doing it for you. Well, all you got to do is par this hole, and you're going to shoot 79, and then you OB, So stop adding up your score. And sometimes, again, my evil twin is Cynthia. So anytime Cynthia goes, oh, be careful, there's the water. It's like, shut up. I'm busy right now. So I talk to Cynthia when she starts telling me to be careful and look out. And I say, you know what? I'm busy right now. I've got to hit this ball right down the fairway. If Cynthia says to me, oh, you're 3 under par, you could make a lot of money. You could be exempt next year, blah, 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 blah. You know, again, that's always going to happen. Everybody has an evil twin. I call it name that witch. And so you have to be aware when that person's talking to you. And then you have to say, I'm not going to listen. And I also pretend if I'm 2 or 3 under and Cynthia starts talking, I pretend that I'm 5 or 6 over and that I'm always striving and I'm always pursuing. Now, again, I'm willing to admit to you that I've choked my guts out more than most people, and because that's the truth. And once you recognize that and you're willing to admit it, it's easier to get over it. If you stay in denial, it's harder.
That begs the question, what do we do when we come to a hole? Let's say it's a par 5 and then you got to hit it over water to reach the green, and we could get home in 2 if we hit the perfect shot, right? But, doubt creeps in, just like you talked about. You're Cynthia, Mike Christopher, starts to creep in and says, but if you come up short, you're going to make 8 or 9. How do we kind of put that in the back? Or when do we decide we should go for it and when we're trying to break 80 here and it's probably not the right play?
Great question. Depends on your personal behavior style. So there's 4 different behavior styles. A high D is what I am. I'm a competitive control freak, Tiger Woods, direct driven. A high I is very influencing, lots of fun, Chichi Rodriguez, Christina Kemp. A high S is Alan Miller, steady, slow, Ernie Els, Jason Duffner. A high C is conscientious, analytical, perfectionist. So Cindy Miller would tend to want to go for things more than Alan Miller because Alan wants to hit 14 fairways, 18 greens. Cindy has never, and played for 50 years, has never hit 18 greens in regulation. Why? Because she always screws one up. But Cindy's shot, 6, 7, 8 under par before because I'm really good at the short game. So your mental golf personality, if you will, Alan Miller is not going for the green unless he's got a 70 to 75% chance of making it over. Cindy would go for the green over the water if she's got a 50-50 chance, knowing that the risk reward, you could blow it and make double. So that's kind of, once you know who you are, and I've created a customized disc golf assessment. If anybody's interested, email me at cindy@cindymillergolf.com and I'll send you the link. And you can find out what you are. And once you know what you are, it's so much easier to make clear decisions and stick to your game plan.
So Cindy, talk to me about staying in emotional control. Right? For the 50% of the time that we don't clear the water, how do we stay in the moment and not let one bad swing, one bad hole turn into us throwing the clubs in the lake?
Well, you also have to know who you are, right? And what's your skill level, right? There's always a why behind the what. So we've got all these kids playing in all these tournaments, Why did you hit the ball there? And my last lesson tonight that I just finished before I got on with you, he said, I was so nervous teeing off. I said, you're the first kid that's ever admitted that besides our own son. Nobody admits that. God bless you. That's awesome. So again, you have to know that you're nervous. And when you're nervous, you're thinking about being nervous and you're not paying attention to the task at hand. So if you didn't pay attention to the task at hand and what you're doing while you're swinging, that's your fault. So again, why did I hit the bad shot? Did I make a clear decision, or do I not have the skill level to be able to carry the water? And again, it's all about looking in the mirror. That comes back to my hit box. How bad does it have to hurt to be willing to change? And are you willing to look in the mirror? So if I say to myself, I'm not really comfortable, this is not a great lie, I'm not going to take the chance because I know that I'm going to be ticked off if I miss the shot. On the other hand, if I have a great lie, right, and I make a bad swing, I just made a bad swing. you're thinking about hitting the shot over the water when you're swinging, you're not paying attention to your swing. And that's your fault.
Indeed. Cindy, just a couple more before I let you go. And I had the privilege of having Jane Geddes on the show last week. And for those who weren't with us, Jane is not only a two-time LPGA major champion, she's also the commissioner of the LPGA Legends Tour. And as you mentioned, with the tournament coming up at French Lick, we actually have the U.S. Women's Senior Open coming up first in late July. So are we going to be able to see you there and at the other four Legends events that are currently on the schedule?
I am in denial about my birth certificate. So, yes, I'm going to try to qualify for the U.S. Women's Senior Open. And I might, if I qualify, I might even be the oldest one in the thing. But I'm not dead yet, and I am still in denial, and I'm not as old as I really am. Or I don't think I'm as old as I really am. Whatever the saying is. But, yeah, I'm going to try to play.
That's awesome. You mentioned your son a moment ago. I saw Jamie played a few weeks ago in the Azalea Invitational at the Country Club of Charleston. Talk about the status of Jamie's game.
How did you see that?
I do my research.
My poor kid. So he's a high D personality, right? He starts out the second round, I think it was. He's 5 under par on the front. Makes 2 doubles, 268 or 69, right?
Right.
He starts out the first round, he has triple 275. So again, and he lives in Buffalo, so there's the excuse, right? He hasn't played golf outside. So get over it. That's too bad. You're the one that decided to go down there and play before you got any rounds. And, you know, again, he was grateful he got invited. He's in the Porter Cup. I think he's playing in the Monroe as well. He and Alan are going down to the Walker Cup next week. And Jamie can't wait. He's like, Dad, you got to go. Can we go? It's at Seminole. And Jamie's got a bunch of friends that are members of Seminole, and all these old guys are going to be there. So they're all excited. But Jamie's doing great. He's on the New York State Golf Committee. He's going to be president of the New York State Golf Association in a couple of years. And he's on the board of Children's Hospital. We're doing 117 holes to raise money for Children's Hospital Buffalo, and I'm going to help him out. And I think I might even be caddying for Josh Allen in one of his million rounds that day.
Wow.
And I play 18 holes myself. Yeah, I played with Thurman Thomas and Patty Thomas last year. So we're raising money for all kinds of good charities in Buffalo.
Cindy, before I let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with all the great things you're doing, whether it's on your website or it's on social media.
CindyMillerGolf.com. Email me, Cindy at CindyMillerGolf.com, and all my social media is at Cindy Miller Golf. Thank you so much, Chris. You're great.
I love you, Cindy. You know that. You're the best. I can't wait to catch up with you again soon. All the best to you and Alan and your family. Stay safe up there, and I look forward to hearing about the great things that you're going to continue to do the rest of this year.
Thanks, honey. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
See you, Cindy. That's the great Cindy Miller, folks. Again, CindyMillerGolf.com. I love her website, and I love the video right there on the homepage. And she and Alan are fantastic people, and I've been truly blessed to spend as much time as I have with Cindy. Again, tonight's the 7th time with her being on the show. She makes the segment so much fun. We look forward to catching up with her again real soon. All right, before I get to my next guest, Suzy Whaley, I want to give a shout out to a few of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at Squares Golf. Are you like me, always considering new golf equipment? Maybe a new driver? Well, I'll tell you what, let me reset your thinking because I discovered Squares golf shoes. The patented square toe provides balance, stability, and a wider base for increased connection to the ground, effectively increasing your swing speed by 2.2 miles per hour, an average of 9 yards of distance. Independent tests prove it. That's right. It's proven in science. Go to squares.com. That's SQAIRZ.com and get Squares' 30-day money-back guarantee. Use promo code DISTANCE for $20 off. Remember, distance comes from swing speed, and swing speed comes from your connection to the ground. And folks, I wouldn't tell you about it if I didn't experience it for myself. I've never felt more stable in my golf swing, which allows me to swing faster and launch it further. Squares, the distance golf shoe. I also want to give a shout out to another new sponsor, Bionic Gloves. Do what you do better with Bionic gloves. Whether you're looking to own the golf greens, improve your workouts, or get your hands dirty in the garden, Bionic gloves has you covered. Designed with a hand specialist, Bionic gloves feature patented innovations that help improve your grip. The strategically placed anatomical relief pads also prevent calluses and blisters, while the web and motion zones allow for greater dexterity and flexibility. Head over to BionicGloves.com to find the perfect glove to up your game. And I want to remind you about our friends over at Zexio. In 2001, Zexio Strixon began making clubs for men and women, and they've improved on those clubs every year since. Every part of Zexio clubs are made exclusively for Zexio. Everything is light and balanced. Swing weights are made to give us the highest smash factors. And the best part of getting fit for Zexio clubs is hitting it higher and straighter than ever before, changing your game. Zexio clubs are a Golf Digest Hot List Gold winner for 2021. Congratulations to Zexio Ambassador MB Park for her 5-stroke victory earlier this year at the Kia Classic. It was her 21st victory, and she did so using Zexio 11 woods and 10 irons. See how Zexio can help your game as well. Go online to ZexioUSA.com and pick which set is right for you. All right, now next on the tee with me is Suzy Whaley. Let me give you some background on Suzy. She played her college golf at the University of North Carolina, where she lettered for 4 years. Her senior year, she tied for 43rd in the NCAA National Championship. She helped the team win several team titles while she was there, including 2 Duke Spring Invitationals, which we'll talk about in just a minute. She graduated with her degree in economics. She played on the LPGA Tour for a few years in the early 90s. In 2003, she became the first woman to qualify to play in a PGA Tour event since Babe Didrickson-Zaharias did it in 1945. She qualified to play in the Greater Hartford Open by winning the Connecticut PGA Championship. She won just about every tournament there is to win in the state of Connecticut, including the Women's Open 3 times. She's competed in the USGA Senior Women's Open and the Senior PGA Championship. She's annually recognized as one of Golf Magazine's top 100 instructors, as well as Golf Digest's top 50 instructors and LPGA's top 50 instructors. She is a PGA Master Professional, and she was recently the first female president of the PGA of America, and I couldn't be more honored to have her with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hi, Suzy. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Suzy, how are you?
I am doing great. I am in Palm Beach, Florida, so no complaints. Had my second shot yesterday, so life is getting better.
Good for you. Suzy, I want to start our time tonight by really kind of going back to the beginning with you. Where did the love of golf come from, and were your parents big golfers?
My mother was a big golfer. My mom loved the game, and she's the one who actually introduced me to the game, which, I say it like that because at that time it was mostly dads that were introducing daughters to the game. There weren't a whole lot of girls playing, but it was my mom. My mom was an avid athlete. She loved sports and was looking for a pal, and found me on the driving range one day with some boys from the pool hitting balls, and that was really the beginnings of my early golf career in Syracuse, New York.
And Suzy, I read that really starting at the age of 3, you sort of had the need for speed, and you even went as far as to go to the University of Colorado first before North Carolina and tried out for their ski racing team. Talk about that.
Yeah, I was an avid ski racer. Skiing was my passion all the way through middle school and high school. I went away to a ski racing academy in Waitsfield, Vermont. We raced out of Sugar Bush and called Green Mountain Valley School. And I was hoping to stand on the podium one day at the Olympics, like so many of us do as athletes. Listen to the anthem, unfortunately, because that did not happen. But I love ski racing, still love to ski. And then golf, I was recruited for golf at the time. Certainly we didn't have the amount of junior events there are today to be recruited. So you were really recruited off your state championship, which I grew up in upstate New York, as I said, and played in the New York State Junior Girls. And then I played in the USGA Junior. And then I also qualified for the U.S. Open in high school, which got me some eyeballs as far as college was concerned. For golf, I was an early Title IX athlete and ended up going to the University of North Carolina.
And while you were there, another great player that was one of your teammates, Debbie Doniger, who's been a wonderful friend of the show, and another great instructor in the game as well. You guys are teammates at the University of North Carolina. What was it like teaming with Debbie?
We are teammates. We call her Dee, and she was amazing. She was a freshman when I was a senior, and, she was full of energy, brought just great fun to our golf team. Katie Peterson was part of the team then. Donna Andrews, a major winner on the LPGA Tour, was a part of our golf team. So we had a strong team, and we had a lot of fun. We had great memories. I think about it today because my daughter ended up playing for Chapel Hill. And when I saw their van versus our van, it made me laugh out loud of what we traveled in versus what they get to travel in now. They've got Wi-Fi, lectures, and, seats that recline. And we had, 3 benches on the floor. And whoever got the floor was, they lucked out because they got to sleep.
So when you were at Carolina, and a couple of times you guys won the Duke Invitational Championship. What's it like as a Carolina player to win that tournament twice on Duke soil?
It's so funny you ask. I just finished doing the coverage for the ACC Women's Championship, and Dan Brooks is still the coach at Duke. My niece, my sister's daughter, is playing for Duke, and so when I heard you mention it early in the interview, I giggled because Duke just won the ACC Championship, and it brought me back to the days of playing against Duke and, really Tar Heel strong in this household, right? So the only thing I told my niece was, and I love her to death. She lives with us during the summers. And I said, well, you just can't expect me to wear that blue ever. I will always cheer for you, but I will not be in that blue. And I was very good on the telecast. I didn't show any of my Tar Heel colors coming through, I don't think. And I got to be honest with you, that Duke squad this year is really strong.
You mentioned your daughter Kelly following in your footsteps there at Carolina. She had a great college career, set the all-time record for the 54-hole tournament score at 11 under 205. Plus, she won the Connecticut State Amateur 3 times. Your other daughter Jennifer played at Quinnipiac, and you volunteered to help coach while she was there. And I read that neither one of your girls really grew up liking the game. They hated the game. How'd you get them to change their minds?
Yeah, they're quoted everywhere saying that. When they were little, they just came. People always say to me, "How'd you get the girls to play golf?" And I'm like, they didn't have an option. Their option was 9 holes or 18. It's what my husband and I do. My husband's a PGA professional as well. And they didn't have to love it, but they were going to learn it, and it was just what we did as a family together. And the very early onset, they loved it because I bribed them, right? Like any good mom does or dad. I gave them M&Ms and let them drive the cart when they weren't supposed to. And so between driving the cart and playing golf, driving the cart always won out when they were little. But as they hung out at the golf course with us and as they met great friends to the game, which they still have today, they ended up getting good at it and really starting to love it. And so my oldest daughter now, she claims she's a corporate golfer now, so she plays in a ton of corporate outings and has a ball doing it. And then Kelly is still an aspiring professional. She is playing in Kansas this week on the Symetra Tour, and just working very hard trying to get more starts, and we'll head to tour school in the fall.
You played a couple of seasons out on the LPGA Tour. Talk about competing at that level. What was that like?
Oh, it was so fun. That was a whirlwind, but again, it was very different than it was today. Donna and I giggle about the fact that we used to take the bread and the peanut butter out of the locker room, right? We didn't have any money. So we just traveled around. We drove everywhere. And I sound like, one of the people who talks about, walking up the hill 5 miles in the snow to school. But, we didn't have cell phones. So we all had CB radios and would caravan to the next event that we got in, and we would talk to each other over CB radios. And, I think I look back at it at least with really great memories, even though I played horribly. I made, I think, 3 cuts. My first year promptly got fired and lost my card, and then realized what I had lost and worked very hard to get my card back, working nights so I could play during the day and prepare. But, for me, it was an experience I will never trade. I thought the worst thing that ever happened to me was losing my card, and it was the absolute best thing that ever happened to me. So I look back at the LPGA with really fond memories.
And Suzy, you were the first woman to do a lot of things, like being the first one to qualify to play in a PGA Tour event since Babe Didrickson-Zaharias did it in 1945. What a tremendous accomplishment. Was it embraced as such, or did the guys sort of raise an eyebrow, not too thrilled?
When I qualified, I had won the section championship, as you mentioned, and the section champion earned this exemption to what then was called the Greater Hartford Open, now called the Travelers Championship, held at the same place at TPC River Highlands. And I never imagined they would extend me the invitation. So I didn't enter the tournament seeking to play in a PGA Tour event. I entered the tournament because I loved to play competitively and wanted to win a golf tournament. My mom was my caddy, and after we had finished the final round and we had won, I got a phone call from the tour asking if I was going to accept the exemption. And, I literally hesitated and said, I don't know. Let me think about it. Which, I think about that now, and the poor person on the phone must have been like, what? And it took me, because the tournament wasn't for 9 more months. And it took me a good 3 months to decide to play for multiple reasons. I had 2 very young daughters. They were 8 and 6 at the time. I had a full-time job as a head golf professional at a public golf course in Avon, Connecticut. My husband was working full-time. So, we were the typical, dual working household with 2 small children, a lot on our plate, but, life was great. And all of a sudden now this was thrown at me alongside of 3,000 international interviews. And, I'm thankful social media wasn't a thing then. I can only imagine what it would have been like if that were the case. But, as I decided to play and as I worked extremely hard to prepare and had this great support network of employees that took on some of my responsibilities, a boss who gave me the freedom to play and practice, friends who were picking my children up from school events, it's something I did not do by myself. And then, I really felt compelled to, it was the first time in a very long time, women were being put on the covers of publications. Golf was being talked about. And I was proud of the fact that I was part of that conversation, and Annika was part of that conversation, and Michelle Wee, and women's golf was getting attention. And I wanted my daughters to know that I was going to prepare as hard as I could. I was way outside my comfort zone, but I was going to hold my head high and compete. And it was brave, to be honest with you. And so I think, I don't want to speak for PGA professionals. That wouldn't be fair from the tour player perspective. But the PGA Tour professionals that I did get to know during the process they respected how I was taking it on. They knew how hard I was working. They knew I didn't take it for granted. They knew I had earned the opportunity and that I was going to play from their same tees. And so for me, I did feel accepted. Peter Jacobson at the time was a close friend. He played the practice rounds with me, with Paul Azinger. And then the really cool part about Peter really embracing the whole experience alongside me was he ended up winning the tournament that week. So it was great karma, and it's something I fondly remember.
Speaking of Annika, when she played in the Colonial back in 2003, I read she did it with encouragement from you. What did you tell her?
I told her the same thing I really just said. Annika, I didn't speak directly to Annika until after she had actually played in the Colonial. And I talked to her. It was at the LPGA Championship, which we were both competing in. And she had walked off the green, and I said, well, how was it? And she looked at me, and she said it was really hard, but it was probably, something I'm so happy that I did. And I was playing in a couple of weeks' time, and I asked her, do you have any advice for me? And she said, just don't get there too early. And I said to her, well, what do you mean? She goes, I just got there too early, and it gave me too much time to think about it. And what Cindy was talking about earlier about, getting nervous and thinking about outcome versus process. And so I took that to heart. And I had planned out by the minute everything I was going to do when I arrived on property, trying to navigate the crowds, getting to the first tee, my warm-up. And as I walked under the rope to head up to the first tee, a gentleman stopped me and asked me where I was going, a volunteer. And I said, well, I'm going to play. And he said, Suzy, didn't anybody tell you we're in a 10-minute delay? And, I remember that so clearly now because all I could think of was, no. Annika told me not to take too much time, right? So it was one of those moments that I think about now and I laugh about because very few people know that story. But I looked at my husband and I looked at my cat and I said, well, what should we do for 10 minutes? And all of us just sit there, so I don't know what we should do. So it kind of lightened the mood. And, I credit that with a little bit of me being able to actually get it airborne off the first tee.
Yeah, that was my next question. What was it like putting a tee in the ground and the ball on the tee and kind of getting ready to swing it the first time on the first tee? Had to be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, you work so hard in the imagining it, right? I worked on visualization for 9 months with Richard Coop, so I really had felt I had done it numerous times over and over in my mind. I had tried to imagine the crowds and the cameras and the people and who I would see and the noise. But there's nothing like that moment, right? You can get really good at visualizing things and fool yourself that you've done it before, but I'm here to tell you that in that moment, it's really tricky to get that ball on the tee. And anybody that is a golfer can relate because it doesn't matter whether you're playing a PGA Tour event like I was playing or whether it's your first time playing an event that's competitive or whether maybe it's your first time playing with somebody you don't know. Or playing in a club championship. The nerves are nerves. The golf ball doesn't know where you are. It doesn't know people are watching. It doesn't know, you're playing in front of 40 million people. But you do, right? So, for me, once it got on the tee, I just really focused on my routine. I had done that. I had worked really hard on the amount of time my routine would take and the steps I would put in my routine. So I really got caught up in the process instead of the moment so that I could make contact. And I did. I didn't make contact well. I hit a pop fly about 200 yards down the center. But, man, it felt like I hit it, Bryson long.
And to that end, we hear about in other sports, like, particularly in maybe a big football game, after the first hit or whatever, it just becomes another football game, whether you're playing in the playoffs or the Super Bowl or whatever. Was it like that for you after that first tee shot? Was it just like being out there playing in any other golf tournament? Or did you kind of carry a little bit of that with you after that?
Oh my gosh, no. I had imagined the first hole. I knew it was going to be quite long for me. I knew I probably wouldn't reach it in regulation, but I would come just short of it. And that's exactly what I did. I had a really good second shot to just off the front of the green. I chipped up to about 4 feet. Great. Life was fabulous. I was like, you know what? This isn't that hard. It's going to be a great day. And the second I stood on the green, I literally lost every feeling in every finger. I couldn't breathe. I got so nervous when I stepped on the green. I really hadn't done a very good job of visualizing putting. I had thought so hard about all my shots and not actually the moment in time I'd be on the green. And I walked over to my caddy, which was Michelle McGann's dad, and said, I don't think I'm going to putt. He said, "Oh no, you're definitely going to putt. It's your turn." And I said, "No, I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm just gonna stand here with you for a little while. He said, you go over there and putt. You can do this. Just rock your shoulders, hit the ball in the middle of the putter, and it'll go in the hole." That's what I went over and did. However, I missed and hit it, 6 feet by. I then missed that and had a small little putt, which felt like it was 40 feet long, for double. And when that ball went in the hole, I truly mean this. It was like I made an albatross. I was so happy because I thought I was going to be there for another 4 putts. And so for me, again, it was a moment that probably was good it happened because I could take a deep breath and laugh at myself, and say, okay, come on, let's go. It's time to play. Let's just go play some golf. And so after the first hole is when, I'm not going to say I wasn't nervous, but I turned the nerves into adrenaline. I turned the nerves into something I could focus and try to hone in my skills. And I ended up playing the best round of golf I've probably ever played competitively, not score-wise, but actually from the yardage I was playing and how I played was probably one of the best rounds I've ever played.
Suzy, you are not only the first female president of the PGA of America, you were the first officer. You rise from secretary to vice president to president, which is the track that happens. But talk about when you became secretary of the PGA of America, and now you know that 4 years from now, I'm going to be president of the PGA of America. What was that like?
I joined the PGA of America to play more golf tournaments. My husband was playing weekly and having a ball, and I was a member of the LPGA teaching club professional division, but they just didn't have as much opportunity. We had a section championship and a national championship, and I was starting to get a little whiny about it. My husband would come home, and I'd say, "No, I don't get why they won't let us play." And he'd say, "Well, why don't you join the PGA of America?" And so he called me out, and that's what I did. I joined. And people always say, "Well, did you join to be president one day?" And I always said, "No, I joined to beat my husband." And that was true. And so as I went through that process of joining, I met just the most incredible PGA professionals who were willing to help me with my business, who were willing to mentor me, who we so enjoyed socially being around. And it just became this incredible circle and group of people that I wanted to be around. And when I started to get involved in governance locally, I just loved it for the same reasons, for the network that it built and the people I had a chance to meet. And it just worked organically into me running for a national position, which I was elected to be on the board nationally. And then when my term was over, I really wanted to still contribute. I really thought it was important to have a seat at the table and to be able to be a voice. Not only for women in the business, but for all PGA professionals. And so I chose to run for that officer position and was fortunate and honored to have the privilege of representing the 29,000 that are PGA members that wear our logo. So for me, it is an incredible journey and one that's not ended. I'm the honorary president currently. And, I really wear my logo proudly every day. And I'm so, especially the last year and a half. I mean, COVID has just turned the world upside down, and PGA professionals across the country have stepped to the plate to offer this incredible solace for so many and so many communities where people are able to get out and be healthy and well and deliver programming to youth that's been done responsibly. And it's just, without that connection to a PGA professional, I'm not sure we would have had the ability to get golf courses open and be able to deliver this great game and have so many new people join us in the game, which is our mission. So I could, the last 2 years has been really something I'm proud of.
As you should. I'm curious, the day after you become president of the PGA of America, what's it like waking up that next morning? Are you fulfilled for a career achievement? Or are you thinking to yourself, oh my God, I'm president of the PGA of America?
For me, it was more because you work alongside of staff at the PGA of America and you work alongside an incredible board of directors who represent our sections across the country. We have 41 sections, so you have leaders that you're working with, and then, of course, you have your officer corps. It's never a singular leader in the PGA of America. You're making these decisions together, and oftentimes, yes, as president, you're going to, take the reins and really try to direct a strategy. And our work in that board is to develop strategy to really elevate and promote PGA professionals and to grow the game. And so for me, the day after didn't honestly feel much different other than I knew I only had 2 years left to make effective change and to be able to promote and talk about PGA professionals in the way that they deserve. So it was almost like a ticking clock that I knew, we had a lot to do. We had a lot of things on our list that we wanted to accomplish. And so for me, it was more about, okay, how do I get organized and make sure we get as much we can get done as possible for the benefit of PGA professionals.
And fate did you no favors. Right? Dealing with the COVID pandemic during the last year of your tenure, what was it like trying to figure out how to navigate a course amid what essentially is a worldwide crisis?
I think anybody that was a leader, everybody is, right, of their own families, but anybody that was a leader of a company or an organization, you had to take immediate action to pivot. And for the PGA of America, it was clear to our board and to our officers and staff that it had to be people first. So many of the things that we had prioritized, we shifted from to make sure that we could help our membership. And so some of those things we instituted was the Golf Emergency Relief Fund because we had members that we knew were going to be out of work immediately, and we didn't know for how long. The Back to Golf efforts where we would lobby with the other allied industries to ensure that we were telling golf's story in a way that public officials would understand that golf could be delivered responsibly. And it was an outside activity, and that with a PGA professional at the helm, that we could manage that. And that just was an enormous undertaking because county to county, city to city, state to state, all had different guidelines. And so we were trying to update that on a daily basis for our PGA professionals so they understood what those policies were, where they live, how they could navigate them, how they could navigate the CARES Act, how we could help them with the Golf Emergency Relief Fund. But it was really about human capital. And, that's the most important thing for most entities and most companies. And we knew our brand was very strong in the marketplace, domestically and internationally. And so the second thing we had to address was our partners and our championships and how we were going to navigate those commitments and those contracts when the world really wasn't open to travel. And so we focused immediately on our KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship, our PGA Professional Championship, and the KPMG Women's PGA Championship, and then, of course, the PGA Championship and the Ryder Cup. So all those decisions were being made, being discussed on a daily basis. There was no separation between day and night, and just like everybody else has talked about in any business. Weekends where there was no such thing, and you're taking emails at 5 a.m. and at midnight because we have a very diverse membership all across the country and around the world. So it was a real challenge, but we met that head on, and we helped a lot of people. And as I said, golf is in an incredible place right now. We're up year over year in every category: equipment, junior golf, adult player development, women's golf. So rounds of played are up, and we just want to be able to look forward and make sure we can retain those that came to the game, but also highlight that core customer that really trusted us and came to the golf course as much as possible. And that's something that we're grateful for and thankful for. This is our business, and this is how we take care of our families.
Suzy, just a couple more before I let you go. And I had the privilege of having Jane Geddes on the show last week. I'm partnering with Jane in the Legends Tour this year to promote what those great ladies are doing. I know you've played in a couple of senior events. Are we going to see you out on the Legends Tour this year?
Yeah, you never know. I signed up for the USGA Senior Women's Qualifier. I'm hoping to get to that so I can be able to compete and try to play. So that's a qualification process. I'm not just in the event. I have a couple conflicts with the LPGA Senior this year, but I am going to play locally in some chapter and some section events in the South Florida PGA, and I'm really looking forward to that too. So I've got a lot going on my plate, but playing is important to me, and I'm going to try to squeeze as much of it in as I can.
Suzy, we've talked about the pressure that's been placed on you over your career in playing in some events. Let's flip that around. When you're playing in a Pro-Am now and people find out that they're paired with, at the time, the president of the PGA of America, now the honorary PGA of America, do people feel pressure to play well? Because you can't just go out there and hack it around when you've got the president of the PGA in the cart next to you.
I always try to make people just realize that, we're just out having a great day. And I don't know of any better day than a day on the golf course. Whether you play horribly or whether you play really well, I think all of us are disappointed when we play poorly. But you're always going to have one or two great shots that bring you back. You're going to have a conversation that makes you laugh. You're going to tell a story of, oh gosh, you think that's embarrassing. You can't imagine the shot I hit last week. So I always try to make people feel really comfortable. But I understand if they're nervous because, as I said earlier, on that first tee, if you're not a little nervous, you're probably not going to play very well. So I don't tell people not to be nervous. I just tell them, channel that energy into something positive. Focus on what you want to have happen, not what you think could happen. Stay away from the what if and tell yourself where you'd like to hit the golf ball. Doesn't mean it'll always go there, but at least you're in a mindset to have some fun and to play well. And you never know. You might just hit the center of the face and find some fairways and some greens, which I love when that happens because then I get a little break because I certainly don't hit all the fairways and the greens.
Suzy, how can our listeners stay up to date with all the great things you're doing and follow you, whether it's online or it's on social media?
For me, I am at Nearsaw, which is in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I'm working on a project called The Park in West Palm Beach, which is a really cool project. But probably the easiest way for people to follow me is just follow me on Twitter at Suzy Whaley or follow me on Instagram at Mama Whales.
Suzy, it's been a huge thrill having you as part of the show tonight. I hope you'll come back and join me again sometime. It was a lot of fun.
That was my pleasure. Thanks so much for talking about golf, and it was a treat to be on.
Stay safe, Suzy. All the best to you and your family. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
You too. Have a great night.
Thanks, Suzy. You too. That's the great Suzy Whaley, folks, and just a tremendous human being, and all the great things that she has achieved over the course of her career. Kudos to her and her family, and her girls are out there too, and so I look forward to keeping up with Kelly on the Symetra Tour, and then hopefully we get the privilege of having Suzy back on the show again before too long. All right, before I get to my next guest, Brandon Stooksbury, I want to give a shout-out to a few of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at Finn Cycles. It's time to rethink golf. The game is at a tipping point. The young people we need in the game don't have 4.5 hours to spend out on the course. Pairing Finn Cycles with a desire to play ready golf can cut playing time in half, because all golfers go directly to their own golf ball. Plus, it's tons of fun. Go online to finscooters.com and click on Find a Fin for a course that has them near you. I also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Golf Pride. Did you know that Golf Pride lets you rep your favorite team while also using the #1 grip in golf? Your team, your grip, MCC Hybrid Grips, the #1 grip series worldwide. Features an exclusive brushed cotton cord in the upper hand for all-weather performance, with premium rubber in the lower hand for added feel. The new MCC Team Series is available in a variety of new color combinations, so you can rep your favorite team out on the course. Available in standard and midsize. Check it out online by going to golfpride.com. And folks, this segment of the show is sponsored by our friends over at the PGA Tour Superstore.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
All right, now next on the tee with me is Brandon Stooksbury. Brandon is from Jacksboro, Tennessee, which is about 25 miles from Knoxville. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Plant Sciences from the University of Tennessee. He is the head golf professional at Metairie Country Club in Metairie, Louisiana. He was previously the director of instruction at Idle Hour Club, which is a little south of me in Macon, Georgia. Brandon is also the author of 2 books titled The Wedge Book and Owner's Manual for Your Short Game, which can be had on his website, StooksburyGolf.com, or over on Amazon, where it was a #1 bestseller. His second book is coming out, and it is titled The Putter Book, an Owner's Manual for Your Green Game. Brandon was named one of the best young teachers in America in 2018 and 2019 by Golf Digest. Since 2010, they have consistently named him one of the best teachers in Georgia, obviously before he went out to Louisiana. In fact, he was named Teacher of the Year in Georgia in 2015 and 2018, and I'm excited to have him with me here tonight on Next on the Tee. Hey, Brandon, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, man, I thank you so much. I'm honored to be included and looking forward to a fun conversation. Thank you.
So, Brandon, congratulations are in order because you just became the head golf professional at Metairie Country Club. I'm sorry you left Idle Hour before I had a chance to come down there and see you in Macon, but congrats on the new role, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great step for me. It's really the next opportunity for me to have my own operation and to get to kind of put my thumbprint on a great old classic club. It's a Seth Rayner design built in 1922. It's actually currently under a complete course renovation. And it's going to reopen in October to a brand new golf course that's back to its Rayner roots. So it's really an exciting project, and I couldn't be happier to be where I'm at to get things going down here.
Brandon, as I was looking over the course of your career, you spent some time with Jim McLean down at his academy at Doral. Talk about how you caught on with Jim and what you learned from him during the time you spent there.
Yeah, so pretty early on, I started my career on the operations side, which is where I'm back now. But I always knew I wanted to teach, certainly at a higher level than I was teaching at the time. And and I wasn't sure how to do that. And it's a really funny story. I'll leave his name out, but a fairly well-known golf instructor that I'm sure you'd know if I said his name, that worked for Jim McLean at the time, wrote an article in Golf Digest or something, Golf Magazine, or, one of the big magazines. And at the end of it, it said, for more information, contact him here. And at like 24 years old, I blindly wrote him an email. And I said, listen, I'd like to learn more about teaching, and I don't know where to start. I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mind talking to me. And he called me like 10 minutes after I sent the email. Didn't know the guy from Adam. And he said to me, look, if you really want to do this, you need to get your butt down at Doral, where the best in the world are here, and we're learning, and we're teaching, and we're a family. And it took me a couple of years to kind of get my career to a place to where I could do that. But eventually I did just that. And I made some incredible friends. I made some incredible connections and colleagues that I still keep in touch with. And it was a great year. Jim taught me a lot, taught me things that I still use today, every day. And I have great respect for Jim and what he has built over the years and what he does for teachers. And so that set me on the path to full-time instruction for a little over a decade. And recently in the last 2 to 3 years, I've worked my way back into operations. And to be honest, that was always the plan. When I went to work for Jim, I really wanted to learn how to be a better teacher. And, life happens and a job changes, and I ended up staying in that side of the business a lot longer than I ever thought I would. But it was an incredible experience that I look back on daily and use things from that year of my life almost every day. And so it was a good time. I worked for him at Doral when he had his old academy, and it's now moved over to the Biltmore in Coral Gables. So it's a little different setup now, but those are some good times for sure.
And from there, you go out to Las Vegas and become the director of instruction at the PGA Tour Academy. So what got you to leave Florida to head out to the desert?
My wife, actually. We were not married at the time. And when I finished, it was sort of timed like this on purpose. She was finishing her school. She is a veterinarian, and she was finishing vet school at the same time the season was coming to a close down in Doral. And so I finished at Doral, she finished school, and we got married, and her job took us to Las Vegas. She got an incredible opportunity out there, and we were, newly married and, in our mid-20s, and moving to Vegas seemed like a really cool idea, and it was great. We spent a little over 6 years out there, or right at 6 years, and we had a great time. Vegas was a great city, and even though we lived out there at a really hard time, in our country, we moved to Vegas around Memorial Day of 2008. And, most of us remember what happened to the global economy, particularly the U.S. economy in the late summer of 2008. And so here we are in maybe the hardest hit city in America, just living it up and having a great time. So it was a cool experience, and I had a great job at a great place. Our academy was on site at TPC Las Vegas. Used to be called TPC Canyons, but it's been TPC Las Vegas for a while. And it was great. It was a wonderful job. And I got really involved in the governance, out there within the PGA chapter and section. So it was a cool experience. And one that I look back on fondly for sure.
And Brendan, I have to imagine playing the game in Las Vegas is a whole lot different than playing the game in South Florida. You go from a sort of a wet, humid climate to a very dry one. For people planning to go out to Vegas, what should they be prepared for regarding the climate impact on their game and shot selection?
Yeah, so there's two things I would say about that. Number one, try to avoid going in the spring if you can. The weather is fabulous, but it is incredibly windy in Las Vegas in the spring. And when I say windy, I'm talking about 25 mile an hour sustained wind, is a daily occurrence. And so the fall of the year is the same weather, but the conditions are a lot better. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is if you're going to Vegas to play golf, drink a lot of water. I don't care how thirsty you think you are, you need more water. And so, obviously out there, you don't sweat does not accumulate on your skin and evaporate. So you don't know that you're sweating, but you're sweating. And so you always need to drink a lot of water. Playing golf in Vegas is really interesting. You know, the ball runs and rolls forever, and the ball flies. Vegas sits at about 2,200 feet above sea level, and so you get a little bit of extra distance out of the golf ball because of where it is, and then the air is very, very thin because there's no humidity in the air, and so you get a little bit of extra flight out of it out there as well. And so playing golf in Vegas is really cool. Everybody overseas in the winter, and so you can play in the, you know, in the summertime and it be Bermuda grass, and then by the time October rolls around, you're playing on ryegrass, which is a really neat, you know, contrast. And so, you know, I had a great time out there, and golf is, most people don't believe me when I say this, but golf in that city is not particularly very big. The golf market is not very big, but man, the golf courses they have out there are really special and some great facilities. So it was a good few years that I look back on, and smile.
Brendan, I want to talk about your book, The Wedge Book, and we talk a lot about the short game on this show. But what are some of the things that our listeners are going to learn when they pick up that book?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about why I wrote it back now, I guess almost 6 years old, or a little over 6 years old. I tried to get better at teaching short game. I wanted to be a better teacher at short game. I found myself doing a lot of golf schools with the company that I worked with, where folks would come in for 2 or 3 days at a time. And, you know, I found that my best chance at getting them better faster was to get them better in short game. And so I tried to start doing some research to learn how to teach short game a little bit better. And to be honest with you, I didn't find a whole lot. And there's still not a lot out there. You know, there are some good works for sure, but compared to the information that you find on Full Swing, you know, there's just not a lot of information out there specifically about short game. And so I read what I could. I traveled and I watched golf instructors and I shadowed people, and, you know, and I learned what I learned. And eventually it just got to the point where I thought, you know, I want to share this because, you know, I have this way of doing it, and I have this way I've learned to teach it by some of the best in the business. And there's just not a lot of information out there. And so I saw an opportunity, and, you know, I wrote a book, and the book ended up being a little over 100 pages. You know, it was never meant to be, you know, this detailed, you know, deep dive into short game. It was meant to really be a 15,000 foot view of what it's like to start right on the edge of the green and work your way back out to about 40 or 50 yards away. And, you know, it came on the market in August, and a week later it was a #1 Amazon bestseller. And I checked 3 days ago, and it's still sitting at #1 6 years later in its category. And so I was blown away by its reception and by its success. I never expected the book to be that popular, but it's been really awesome. And the success of the Wedge book is really why I pivoted and decided to write the second book. That was never part of the plan, but I felt like, you know, I had a similar opportunity in the world of putting, and thus the putter book was born. But the Wedge book was a cool step for me. You know, I mean, it made me an author. It made me a best-selling author, and it gave me a lot of credibility in our business. You know, and it was a really neat experience. I appreciate so much my co-writer, Matt Rudy, and Tim Oliver, who did the graphics for me. And it was a really special project for me that turned out way better than I ever expected it to.
Brandon, I want to pick your brain and get some short game tips, starting really with bunker play. I'm a terrible bunker player. I always try to, you know, keep speed in my swing and propel the ball out of the bunker, but I either thin it way over the green or I hit it fat and the ball stays in the bunker. And I saw your video on bunker shots on your YouTube channel. Fantastic stuff. And one of the things that I liked that I really never saw or heard anybody talk about before was when opening the face, you know, of our, whether we're hitting a sand wedge or a lob wedge, to have the grooves face your front, your lead foot, your lead toes, and pointing back towards that. I'd never heard anyone sort of draw that line for us. Talk about how that can make us more successful in getting the ball out of the bunker.
Well, getting a ball out of the bunker is all about managing low point. An easier way to say that would be managing where the club hits the ground. And that's nothing really new because we have to manage where the club hits the ground if we're hitting a wedge shot out of the fairway too. As a matter of fact, we have way more ability to miss our spot in a bunker and still have some success than we do when we're doing it out of a fairway. And so people get kind of scared of bunker shot when it really should be the opposite. I really do believe that a greenside bunker shot might be the easiest shot in the game. And I'm not downplaying its challenge, but relative to hitting the same shot out of a fairway lie, you can make some mistakes out of a bunker and the ball will still come out and end up on the green. So, the groove to the big toe, was just something that ended up being easy for me to relate to people. People always ask you, well, how much is too much or how much is enough? And really opening the face is all about presenting the bottom of the golf club a particular way to the bunker that allows you to take advantage of how the sole of the wedge is designed. Bounce has become a bit of a buzzword, but that's exactly what it does. It exposes the bounce and sort of puts you in a position to use the sole of the wedge in a favorable way. That the more you open the face, the more bounce you expose, but there is a point where you can go too far. And so I just felt like that was a great way to explain it. If you just take your stance, if you just open the grooves until they point at your big toe, that's usually pretty safe. And so it's interesting to hear you say that. I'd never realized that was, wasn't something that was floating around out there, but it seemed pretty easy to me to talk about it in the video. And so, bunker shots can be problematic and can be really, scary to people, but they really don't have to be. You just have to do a couple of things right.
So let's back up a little bit and staying in a bunker. What about fairway bunker shots? What tips can you share for how we can make clean contact and get that ball out?
Yeah. So here's what I would tell you. If you have the ability to make clean contact hitting a 7-iron out of the fairway, then you have the ability to make clean contact out of a fairway bunker. Because at the end of the day, that shot really isn't any different than a shot out of the fairway. Out of the fairway, we're still supposed to hit the ball before we hit the ground with the club. Out of a fairway bunker, you're supposed to hit the ball before you hit the ground. And so what I find most people do in fairway bunkers is because they're scared to death of them and they think that something has to be done differently, they end up manipulating their bodies and their golf swings, trying to do something different when all they really have to do is swing the golf club the same way. I'll tell you, man, the only change I would recommend most people to make out of a fairway bunker, if you have consistent contact out of off a fairway already, just move the ball back in your stance about a half a ball from where you would normally play it with the club you have. That just hedges your bet a little bit that you'll catch ball first. You might hit it a touch thin, but usually folks have their expectation level a little lower coming out of a fairway bunker anyway. Hitting it thin is not going to be the worst thing. People get all twisted up, out of a fairway bunker. It's easy if you just treat it the same as you would any other golf swing with a little bit of a hedge with the ball, a half a ball back from normal, and I think you'll be okay. Greenside bunker shots are a little bit different, but fairway bunker shots aren't that bad.
And Brandon, another one of the videos that you've done that I really love, and I learned something again, was about pitch shots. You talk about one of the keys to being successful is getting the center of our chest, our sternum, in front of the ball. Talk about how that works, and then how does that also impact shaft lean and help us, get that ball clean and get it closer to the hole.
Yeah, so I won't relate chest position to shaft lean, and here's why. Because you really have the capacity and the capability to manipulate the shaft however you need to based on the shot you want to hit and the lie you have. And so if you put me in the rough and the ball was sitting up just a little bit off the ground, which is the most forgiving, lie you could have, I could deliver the shaft leaning forward, I could deliver it neutral, or I could even deliver it backward. And all three of those produce very different trajectories on the shot. And I would do all that with my chest in the same position. So don't think about the chest and its position relative to the ball as having an impact on shaft. Rather, think about it as helping you to guarantee that you will hit the ground under the golf ball, right? And so you've got to, again, just like a bunker, being a good wedge player is all about managing where the club hits the ground. And the problem people have, and the reason I talk about the chest, is because in wedges, typically we need some trajectory. And a lot of golfers, I would say more golfers than not, add trajectory by moving their chest backward and trying to go under the ball and lift it up in the air. Sometimes it's subtle and folks don't even know they're doing it. Sometimes it's not so subtle and they're actively trying. And that can really wreak some havoc on controlling where the wedge hits the ground. In other words, when the chest moves backwards, then that means the club's going to hit the ground further and further backwards. And so what ends up happening is you hit one fat and then you get scared to hit the next one fat and you end up pulling up and out of it with your arms and hands and you hit it thin. And then if anybody's guessed what happens after that. And so talking about where the chest is relative to the golf ball is an easy way to think about the fact that you have to keep your center of rotation or mass stationary or moving slightly toward the target, because that ensures that the club hits the ground in the right spot. If you move your chest backwards, you're dead with a wedge in your hand, especially a finesse wedge around the green. Without question, number one mistake I see most golfers make is moving the chest incorrectly. And so that's why I talk about the chest and its position being over the ball or slightly in front of it.
So with that movement of moving the chest slightly forward, talk about weight distribution. Am I still 50-50 or am I starting to get towards 65-70% of my weight on my front foot versus my back?
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to feel heavy in the front foot, but it's really important. There's a couple of ways you can feel weight in your front foot. You can stick your hip out and feel weight in your front foot. But if you do that, then you just move your chest behind it. If you move your chest in front of it, and it wouldn't be this far, but think about standing straight up and trying to make the buttons on your shirt be over your left knee for a right-handed player, right? And that would almost tilt the spine toward the target. You would certainly feel more weight in your left leg, but it would be weight in your left leg the right way instead of a very dangerous way if you stick your hip out. When you stick your hip out, your spine leans away from the target and your chest moves backwards. And so you'll definitely feel more weight in your front or lead foot. It's just important to understand how to feel that weight and why you're feeling that weight. It's because your center, I would call it your upper center or your center of mass, which usually is around just a bit above your belly button, would be more in front of the ball instead of behind it. And if you think about it that way, yes, you have more weight forward, but it's because your center of mass is more forward. Hopefully.
Let's talk about a couple of other things related to the sort of chip or pitch shot. First of all, you talked about lie a minute ago, getting in a bad lie, or if we're in a real tight lie. Does it matter? Because now getting your sternum a little bit ahead of the ball, does that help alleviate because you're going to catch the ball first and lie doesn't come into as big a play? Or do we have to be very careful about those types of lies, and does that make an adjustment somehow and how we need to play that shot?
Yeah, generally the condition of the lie won't change the technique much. You know, it can. Please don't misunderstand. You know, it's possible that if the lie gets too bad or too thin, that you might make a change in your setup to help you accommodate that lie. But generally, the lie only puts a ceiling on what you're able to do. And what I mean by that is if the lie is very, very tight, then that reduces the number of options you have of things you can make the ball do. If the lie is very, very bad and it's in very deep rough, then that reduces the options of the number of things you can make the ball do in different ways. But it really doesn't change much about how you set up and play the shot. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If the ball's sitting down in deep rough, you're not going to be able to put any spin on the ball whatsoever, and it's going to come off the face very soft. So you have to hit it harder to make it go the same distance, and it's going to have no spin on it. So the only way you have to make a ball that's been hit harder stop faster, if you can't spin it, is to hit it higher. So you might change the way you play the shot because of the lie, but that really won't change the setup very much. Hopefully I'm making some sense, right? The lie changes how challenging or not challenging the shot is, and it changes what you can or can't do with the ball because of what kind of lie you have.
Let's talk club selection, Brandon, because if we have just a normal lie, maybe we're somewhere between 5 and 15 yards off the green, nothing spectacular. We're not trying to hit over water or trap or anything along those lines. Do you have a club selection? Is it consistent? I'm always picking up either my pitching wedge or my sand wedge, or do you look at those based on the type of shot, back left pin or that sort of thing? Are you looking at an 8-iron, a 9-iron, maybe a 7-iron? Talk about club selection.
No, 100% based on the type of shot you want to play. And so I encourage people to look at wedges as tools in a tool belt. And if you're a carpenter and you have a job to do, you're going to carry a tool belt with you. And when you get to the job site and see what you have to do, then you choose the appropriate tool. I would want people to look at wedges the same way. When you always want to choose the shot that best fits the situation. Okay, so in other words, the other way to say that would be the situation determines the type of shot that you play. People make some bad mistakes when they start choosing the shot or the club and trying to fit that into the situation. Then you start having to manufacture golf shots that you really can't hit very well with that particular club, and that puts a ceiling on how good you're able to be. And I to go back to my carpenter example, imagine a carpenter that came to the job site and he had one screwdriver and a hammer and one wrench. And then the other carpenter came to the site and he had a tool belt that had 25 tools. Which carpenter would you rather have working on your house? Right. And so I think if you look at it that way, as wedges, as tools in a tool belt, and then depending on what kind of shot you need to play, you choose the right tool, that's a much better way to look at that when it comes to club selection.
Brandon, one more before I let you go, and we've talked about, or at least mentioned, your new book, the Putt on Putting. Talk about some of the things that we're going to learn once we get that book.
Yeah, so it's going to be very similar in sort of style and format to the wedge book. The same way the wedge book, it's meant to kind of be a 15,000-foot view of putting. And so I talk about some mechanics. You know, I talk about some things that you should and shouldn't do. But it really is designed to be a book for someone who's never thought a whole lot about putting, who's never really concerned themselves a whole lot about what is my putter fit for me correctly? Is the head style work for me? You know, for somebody that's never really concerned themselves a whole lot with how do I get better at putting, the really great book for you to sort of educate yourself. Almost think of it like putting 101. And I talk about the three, there are 4 skills, but I'll tell you, the 3 most important skills to putting. People get caught up in, should I hold my grip like this, or should I hold my body or stand like that? And they really don't talk about the skills. And the skills, in no particular order, are can you choose the right line, which would be green reading? Can you start the ball at line control? And can you control the speed? If you can do all 3 of those things, you're going to be a good putter. How you do those things is far less important than if you do those things. And so many people look at it the other way. They concern themselves with how to do something without actually knowing what they're trying to do. And so it's putting 101, right? If you've never really thought much about putting, you learn what's important to make a putt. You learn how club fitting plays a role in that. You learn some practice habits and some diagnostic tools to be able to diagnose which of the three skills are most deficient. And it's a really good guide for folks that have never really paid a whole lot of attention to putting. And I can only hope that it ends up being as successful as the Wedge book did. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into the book and what it is. And if you're interested in putting, or putting's a weak part of your game, or you just don't know a whole lot about it, and you think you want to try to get better at it, then I would recommend you pick it up, because you're gonna steal away. You're gonna come away with stealing a couple of nuggets that I know will help you.
When's the book going to be available?
It's actually out. It came out just a couple of weeks ago, and so you can get it on Amazon. That's really the best way to get it. If you want a signed copy, I'm happy to mail you. You can reach out to me on my website, and I'm happy to sign a copy and drop it in the mail to you. But Amazon is really the best way to buy it. Both are available. Both the putter book and the wedge book are available in both paperback and digital versions. And so, Amazon's the easiest way unless you want it personalized, and you can just reach out directly to me and I'll sign one and drop it in the mail to you.
So, Brendan, let our listeners know how they can follow you on your website and then over social media and YouTube as well.
Yeah, everything is under Stooksbury Golf. It's both a blessing and a curse to have the last name of Stooksbury. Nobody knows how to say it or nobody knows how to spell it, but nobody else has got it either. And so, everything out there is under Stooksbury Golf. My website, my Twitter handle, my Facebook page, my Instagram page, YouTube, everything is under Stooksbury Golf. And so if you just went to Google and typed in Stooksbury Golf, you'll find me, because there isn't another one out there. So, everything is that way. And I love to hear from people and get feedback from folks and have conversations. So please feel free to reach out to me on any of those mediums. Even if it's just a contact on my webpage, and, that email comes directly to me. I'm a one-man operation. I see and read all those comments. And so I love to hear from golfers. I love to hear from folks who've read the book and like talking about short game and getting better. So, I'd love to hear from anybody that wants to talk.
Well, Brendan, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and being a part of this segment. You're fantastic, my friend. So much great content that you have available out on YouTube and obviously through both of the books and that sort of thing. I sure hope we get the privilege of having you back on the show again sometime.
Well, I thank you so much, man. I'm follow the YouTube. You're going to start to see some more content. My hair's a little grayer now than it was in some of the videos that you watched. So I've got to get some new content up there. That's coming real soon. Once I get my feet under me here at my new spot, down at Metairie, and I'm going to be putting some new stuff out. Chris, I can't thank you enough. I had a great time. I'm honored to be a guest and look forward to the next chance I have to come on.
I appreciate that very much, Brandon. Best of luck out at Metairie Country Club. We look forward to catching up with you again soon. Stay safe, my friend.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good night.
See you, Brandon. And it's Brandon Stooksbury. Stooksbury is the spelling of his last name. Folks, he's got so much great content out on his YouTube page. I can't recommend that enough. I don't even know how many tips he's got out there, but it's a bunch, and they're great. So go out there and check it out, and then I'm looking forward to checking out both books. That ought to be a lot of fun, a lot of good information there, too. Goodness knows I can use help with both of those things, with the short game and a wedge, and with the putter as well. So hopefully we'll get Brandon back on the show again soon. All right, folks, it is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again to Cindy Miller, Suzy Whaley, and Brandon Stooksbury for joining me tonight. Please check out our website, nextonthetee.net, to keep up to date with what our guest schedule looks like. And speaking of which, scheduled to join me next week are our resident director of instruction, Tom Patcher. He's going to be back with us. We'll hear how it went for him at the Florida Senior Open Championship. 10-time winner between the PGA Tour and the Champions Tour. Tom Purtzer is going to be making his next On the Tee debut next week. Looking forward to having Tom as part of the show. Another one of the top instructors in the game and a great friend as well is Rob Strano. He's going to be back with me. Be sure to check out Rob's show, The Golf Kingdom. It's available on Roku and on Blab TV, and it's really a fantastic show. A lot of fun. Rob is a hoot to be around and with, and is a great instructor on top of all of that. Another first-timer is going to be joining me next week, and that is former Chicago Blackhawks goalie and now TV broadcaster for the St. Louis Blues. Darren Pang is going to be here. Really excited to have Panger as part of the show. So it's going to be a great one, folks. I hope you'll come back and be a part of it with us. Folks, you can stream this show as a podcast on a number of great sites and apps like podcast.co, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audioboom, Player.fm, Odyssey. If you've got a favorite podcasting app or site, we're probably on it. Just go to the search bar, type in Next on the Tee. I'm sure you'll find us as a part of that app, whatever it is. And folks, if you love the show, do me a favor and please go online to podcastmagazine.com and vote for their show in their Hot 50 list. When you go to their site, click on Hot 50. You're going to find it right at the top of the homepage. You're going to get a drop-down list that includes Hot 50 voting. Click on that and just type in the name of the show, Next on the Tee, and then my name, Chris Mascaro, over as host. I'd really appreciate your support. Folks, thanks again for choosing to listen to this show tonight. I really appreciate the fact that you continue to make Next on the Tee a part of your golfing content. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.